Welcome back. And today we cover the Grim Harbinger Ranger and Harbinger. Is it Harbinger or Harbinger? Either way, we're covering the Ranger and the Rogue. As usual, we're going to be rating them from D to S compared to other subclasses that they have options to take. Starting with the Ranger, and as usual, we'll start with the theming of the class. This time I'm a little bit lost. The class focuses on a pet called the Grim. It's a spectral companion that's ambiguous in form. It's left like that so you can insert your own ideas of what it looks like, but I guess the only thing I can really think to compare it to is Crowley from Supernatural, coldly saying, like, "Sick 'em, boys," to his hellhounds as a way of setting spectral pets on people. I'm not really sure if there's another media reference I'm missing. Either way, starting off with the spell list, yes, we actually get a spell list in this one. Not all Ranger subclasses do. We're going to have level 3 Bane, level 5 Hold Person, level 9 Fear, level 13 a new one, which I'll go over in a second, level 17 Dream. These are pretty much, except for Dream, these are all concentration spells, which if you've looked at the 2024 Ranger, you know is a bit interesting because the whole point of 2024 Ranger is casting Hunter's Mark on people. This seems to go against what these spells give you, but we'll cover that in a bit, why this is a bit better than it sounds. Intrusive Despair is a pretty nice spell. It's a 4th level spell, so you only get it at level 13, but what it does is essentially, until they pass 3 different saving throws against you, they have a chance of wasting their action on a fail. This is one spell, leave it concentrating and potentially wasting the big bad's bunch of actions, or actually wasting their legendary resistances, because what's nice about this is they have to succeed 3 times to get rid of it. They can't just use a legendary resistance and it's gone. I think that's quite a nice spell for action economy, especially. In a vacuum, these spells are all pretty decent combat spells. They overlap with each other quite a lot because of their concentration issue, but you're essentially going to want to concentrate on the best possible spell you have access to, rather than Hold Person when you could be Intrusive Despairing, for example. Or maybe Hold Person actually is the best of the lot, in which case what's the point of getting Fear or Intrusive Despair? But the idea here is that they synergize with your pet. So, covering the pet then, as a bonus action, you target a creature you can see within 90 feet of you and magically seal its doom for 1 hour. Once per turn, when you hit the doom target with an attack, it takes an extra 1d6 necrotic damage. So that's Hunter's Mark, but as an ability that doesn't use concentration. So that's why we get concentration spells, because we're supposed to be using this instead of Hunter's Mark. Okay, but I guess it would also stack with Hunter's Mark, which is quite nice. In addition, the ghostly creature called the Grim appears in an unoccupied space within 30 feet of the target. I'll put the stats for the Grim on the screen. It's very similar to the Beastmaster Companion, so we're going to be doing a lot of comparison here. They're both controlled the same way. The Grim deals a little bit less damage and doesn't knock prone, but it does have some ranged utility and CC built in. I also think the Beastmaster class doesn't really come online until level 11, at which point you get an extra attack for the Beast, and it can be boosted by your Hunter's Mark. But for the Harbinger Ranger, at level 7, we get an extra 1d6 damage on the Grim's attacks, as well as some resistance ignoring perks. This means between level 7 and 11, your Grim is just better than the Beastmaster Companion, which is kind of saying something, considering you also get a concentrationless Hunter's Mark. At level 11, when the Beastmaster fully comes online, you get the Ghastly Hound feature, which is the Grim gains resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage, and you gain a resistance to necrotic damage. It's a nice little tankiness boost to you and your Grim, I guess. When the target of your Omen of Doom succeeds on a saving throw, you can take a reaction to force it to re-roll the save with disadvantage, and use the new roll. Once you cause the save to fail with this benefit, you can't use it again until your current Omen of Doom ends. This last part is great for guaranteeing, basically, your Hold Person goes off on someone, and then your Grim attacks it with advantage. I really think that's sort of the whole theme of this subclass, is you are there CCing the battlefield while your Grim does the damage for you. It's quite cool. And it's also something the Beastmaster can't necessarily do because they're spending time concentrating on Hunter's Mark, a semi-useless spell except for the damage buff. Finally then, at level 15, you gain Jaws of Doom. The Grimm's Rend deals another extra 1d6 damage, for a total of 2d6 extra damage, and when you use Omen of Doom, you can force the target to make a Charisma saving throw against your spell save DC. On a failed save, until the current Omen of Doom ends, the target has vulnerability to damage dealt by your Grimm, and to the extra damage you deal with Omen of Doom. Once you use this benefit, you can't use it again until a long rest. You can restore the use of it by expending a use of a level 4 spell slot. This is okay, I suppose. It's a sort of a cherry on top for the damage on the Grimm, for sure. Now, I'll just state it, I'm not a big fan of Ranger. In fact, I think it might be my least liked class. I'm a big Druid person, and Rangers always just feel like Druids, but worse. Come at me in the comments for that one. But while this subclass is doing nothing to remedy that, I do think this might be the best low-level subclass for Ranger. Now, you can't do the Beastmaster thing of getting on top of your Omen with 2 melee weapons, knocking something prone, and then dealing double advantaged hits against it. But fearing enemies left, right, and center, using Hold Person or Bane, these concentration spells that can really impact the battlefield. And then you just output so much damage on top of this. Getting a free Hunter's Mark is crazy, actually, when it comes to damage. The Grimm also being stronger than the Beastmaster's Beast at level 7 is really nice. Your Grimm's attacks also frighten, which I haven't really mentioned until now, but this means you're going to be CCing people left, right, and center, and that's on top of high damage. I think playing this class, you want to try and get to level 16 Wisdom early, and then try and increase your dex, because you definitely want survivability for yourself and extra damage on your bows. I think this class definitely wants to sit back and control the battlefield from afar rather than get stuck in. But yeah, with 16 Wisdom, your pet's more than strong enough. I'm going to give this subclass a high B, really close to an A. It's not very easy to build a character for this. It's not going to be very easy to play it perfectly. There's not much theming going on, and does overlap with Beastmaster in a few too many ways. But, hear me out. It will make every fight significantly easier just having this guy around. The amount of fears being thrown around and CC, it's just going to feel like you're doing the work of 2 people, and that's because you kind of are. Moving on to the Sinner Rogue, and personally I've played this one in a 2-shot. This is more of a face of the party rogue, at least how I played it, rather than a Slink in the Shadows edgelord type. Think Ocean's 11 type of thievery. Bravado and confidence and deception doing a lot of the carrying rather than invisibility and stealthiness. I also themed my character as sort of a Robin Hood turned sinner. Robin Hood who had gone through one too many bad days and now was indulging in all the cheating and drunkenness and lying he could. It was fun to try and tie the 2 sides of lawlessness together. Robin Hood's normal vigilanteism and also sinning and debauchery. I'm sure there are many other media references for this character. The typical casino goer or drunk or many types of sinning in media for sure. Alright, well that's the theme, so how about we go over the abilities? At level 3 we get Hexslinger. When you deal damage to a creature with your sneak attack, most rogue subclasses have a level 3 ability that relies on you actually doing your sneak attack. It's a nice incentive to try and do the thing that your class is supposed to be doing. When you do that, you unleash the power of your Jinxcraft, whatever that means. When you roll your sneak attack die, designate 2 of the die before the roll. You can use colored dice or roll them separately, or if you're playing online, you can just take the first 2 dice that are rolled out of the total because it shows you the individual dice. That's how I did it anyway. The total rolled on these 2 dice determine the effect of your Jinxcraft, as noted on the Hexslinger tables shown on screen. You can use this feature a number of times equal to your Charisma modifier, and you regain all expended uses when you finish a short rest, which means you basically have it up most of the time. I enjoyed the practicality of this feature, working on something that you're already aiming to proc each turn. Also, I liked how it incorporated the damage die into the game of chance. You didn't have to roll separately for the table. Alright, well let's look at the chances you can get each one then. I'll go over the most unlikely ones first then. Snake Eyes is realistically 2d6 or return skip. This is great. You're never going to be sad about that. Bonus damage or making them miss their turn is just so universally useful. Dead Man is an auto hit or crit or super crit. At my tables, we run with the better crits homebrew, where you just take the highest value it could be. With that, this is crazy. But even if you don't use that, having this much chance to crit with a sneak attack is real nice. Because sneak attack damage crits very well. The Nightmare is insane because it doesn't require a save. I rolled this 3 times in a row while fighting a dragon as my character and just sent him absolutely flying. Now, it's only fair, so on their turn, they can run back and attack your party, but they do have disadvantage if they can see you. They can't move back towards you specifically. Very powerful effect, though. Very nice CC. Cheap Shot can be bad if the target goes straight after you in initiative. Bad Luck is a little situational because lots of enemies will have spells or abilities to do for a turn instead of attacking. And remember, you don't get to choose which one of these you roll, so you might hit the mage with this. And finally, the last two, which statistically you will get one of these half the time that you roll on this chart. Whiskey Bottle is one of the very situational ones, and the saving throw DC doesn't scale, so I think most of the time you're hoping not to get this one. Especially against dragons. I would have been a bit screwed if I had rolled this against the dragon fight mentioned earlier. Withered Arm is also really situational. It does nothing versus versatile or dex weapons like ranged attacks, abilities, or spells. There's too many ways opponents don't care about this. So overall, I'd say there's about a 50-50 chance of getting one that's kind of situational or bad. I think that's quite funny. I wonder if that's intentional and they actually did the math on that. You just flip a coin and win the fight or not. No, obviously that's hyperbole. Being able to do this charisma times per short rest is a fine amount. That doesn't mean you can permanently do it every shot. And honestly, making sure you use it at the right time is quite crucial to playing this class. If you get the right roll at the right time, this feels like being able to concentrationless cast Hold Monster or something equally powerful. If you get the wrong one on the wrong person, it's just a waste. This is not a subclass for those who, I won't say who hate dice rolling, I'll say who the dice hate. I have many friends who, whenever they roll dice, it's the worst possible outcome. It doesn't seem to matter what. You need to roll low, and suddenly that's the one time the dice rolls high. This is basically the wild magic of rogues. So if you're one of those people, maybe stay away from this class, to be honest. Not that I believe in luck, but there are some people who just seem to prove me wrong on that one. At level 3, you also get the Jinxed feature, which amounts to proficiency in gaming sets. And you can do a ritual to turn one of those gaming sets into gambit cards, basically. Not quite gambit cards, but I mean, you can throw chess pieces at enemies if you want, but it becomes a ranged weapon that's quite short range. It deals 1d8 force damage and has the Vex Mastery property, but I'm pretty sure, unless I'm mistaken, there's no way to actually activate this mastery because you can't have mastery in a gaming set. Anyway, you can also activate this on a weapon of your choice and just make anything else into force damage. That's what I did with a longbow. Makes more sense to me. And also at level 3, we gain a cantrip from a small list. The Mysterious Presence cantrip is an option, and it's a new spell from Crooked Moon. That was my go-to. It empowers stealthing, which, as a rogue, big fan. Now, looking at the other rogue subclasses, they do tend to get quite stacked at level 3. You do tend to get quite a lot of features, but man, this just felt like so much. Now, overall, you're not having the damage that the Assassin gets, or maybe even the flexibility that Arcane Trickster gets, but you're wild magic, baby. If the luck's on your side, you can outperform anyone. At level 9, you gain a Heroic Inspiration every time you use your Hexslinger, which, yeah, that's a lot. can't pass this to anyone else, and it doesn't count as advantage for your sneak attack using a heroic inspiration. But you will be getting this about half your turns if you really want and are using it consistently. This is almost an excessive amount of heroic inspiration. Fortunately, they accounted for that, and they let you use these heroic inspirations instead of a Hexslinger charge. Now, giving up a reroll to use a charge of an ability you have a bunch of might feel like a waste, but trust me, you'll just get it back next turn. You get so many of these things. Using the heroic inspiration that you got on your turn from this ability as a saving throw between turns feels so good. You just get rerolls for days. At level 13, we get something a bit tricky to evaluate. This is the level where the other subclasses, I would say, get some pretty questionable shit. But you get something that makes Hexslinger way more reliable. You get a charge back on 2 and 12 is kind of relevant, but the damage on doubles comes up in about 1 in 6 rolls, which, now that you roll twice, is about 1 in 3 attacks. Alright, some extra damage then. It's summon. And trust me, it's better than what most rogue subclasses get at level 13 anyway. At level 17, we go full devil deal with our luck. If the inspiration rolls weren't enough, which, to be honest, they probably should be, now you can basically guarantee any attack or saving throw to pass. But all it costs you is the future sneak attack damage, which you would do. At this level, you're doing 96 sneak attack damage. You can spend these dice to increase your AC or your attack rolls. Increasing your AC means, on top of having evasion, you are very tanky. Also, being able to add to your attack rolls when you already have heroic inspiration pretty much every turn. Let's say you're trying to attack a AC 30 monster, something that's really, really, really hard to hit. Well, now you have plus 11 to hit, rerolled because of your heroic inspiration, so your average hit is just 25. That's not enough. But now we just add an average of 2d6 for our sneak attack, and boom, we're there. And that's to hit something that we shouldn't really be able to hit consistently. None of this helps you get your sneak attacks, so make sure you have, like, sticky martial or are using steady aim. Frankly, I used steady aim pretty much every turn in combat, but that does lock you in place, so it's not always ideal. What's hilarious to me is how useless this all makes the level 20 capstone for Rogue. I don't know, I would just take a point in some other class because, wow, the 20 capstone is just so redundant at this point. I just don't think you're ever missing, basically. Looking at this class with a broader picture then, it's something akin to wild magic, which is a super random but potentially powerful effect. And then all the other higher level of features just seem to try and make you more and more consistent and stable. If that's your playstyle, then you'll love this. And I sure had a blast playing Robin Hood Gone Bad. But I think, just in terms of raw output, Assassin's doing way more damage. Saying that, the theming and fun of this subclass are, in my opinion, far stronger than the others. Being able to build your character's personality around sin, greed, or addiction leaves you with a much stronger, more well-rounded character than I am the assassin in the League of Assassins, and I assassinate. Okay, that's a bit mean, but I just think playing this as like the charisma rogue is so much fun. For that reason, and with how much fun I had playing it, I want to give it an S. But the low damage and high variance, followed by some seriously redundant amounts of overcompensating with features piling on, just trying to give you more consistency. I think that all brings it down to an A for me. Just taking the level 3 and the level 13 features, though, they are easily in the S tier. It's just everything else that kind of drags it a little bit down. But hey, I think the theme of this class really fills in a hole that Dungeons & Dragons actually had. So if you want to play someone like that, someone who's a swindler, a gambler, a charming vagabond, then I don't think there's a better subclass for you. Well, that's it for today. Had some pretty interesting stuff to go over here. These classes were not simple, man. They introduce a lot of factors to consider, and I'm just glad I got to play the Sinner one before I had to review it, because that let me get a lot more insight into the class. Next week, we'll be covering the Sorcerer and the Warlock. I hope to see you there, and I'll catch you next time.